Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Doug, the Retirement Guy. We got a review of the weekly dividend ETFs from GraniteShares. They just added 2 new shares this week. That's putting us up to 16 total. We're going to show you each and every one of them as we try to do this each and every week. Before we get into this, I got to do a shout out to all of our Patreon supporters and all of our YouTube subscribers. If you're not part of the channel, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification. You don't want to miss a single one of our videos. We do this to try to help grow your portfolio. So let's get into today's video. Notice to all viewers, past performance does not guarantee future results. This information in the video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you are looking for financial advice, always contact a financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor, and I don't plan on giving financial advice. So we're going to take a look today at the funds, the growth or the value of the funds that they have done. Now, when we take a look at this, we will see it was not a great week. Most of the stuff is down, but the positive ones that we have is the Amazon Yield Boost was up 3.79%. The next one into that one is HLYY, the GraniteShares Yield Boost Robinhood ETF, was basically up 1.31% over the 1 week. And then we have the 2 new funds, MAAY, which is the yield boost for MARA, and then IOYY, which is the I call ONQ, but it's ONQ ETF. Both of those were virtually, they would have a positive growth this week from when they opened up. Overall, the funds, took a little bit of a hit for the value of the growth. When we took a look at the yield to date growth side of it, you can see they still have a few funds still in the green, holding on slightly, but a lot of their funds have definitely slipped into a small negative growth. So let's get into the next part, and that's going to be the funds distribution. This is where GraniteShares really produces. It gives you that potential income and very strong dividend payouts is possible week in, week out. When we take a look at it, the 2 new funds actually were the highest payouts this week. IOYY paid out 70.24 cents and MAAY paid out 67.92 cents. So very, very strong payouts. They did not use any return of capital. So those were real, true, hardcore profits from the premiums that they sell to generate those dividends. Looking at the current ones that have been out there, HLYY would definitely be right there at 58.3 cents, down a little bit from last week. And then SMYY, the Yield Boost SMYY ETF, again, 56.95 cents, down a little bit from last week. You can see we did not have the volatility that we needed, but still generated some fairly promising dividends across the board. When we take a look at the distribution rates, we will give you the very first one is COYY, the Coinbase one. They are still holding on to 153.80% distribution rate as of the publication from GraniteShares this morning. When we take a look at the forecasted of IOYY, they're at 153, MAAY at 147. You look at a lot of their distributions, SMYY, 142.09%. TSYY 139.78%, HLYY 139.41%. The GraniteShares give some nice distribution rates across the board, and they don't always use the return of capital. We give you the report here. You can see many of their funds are zero, which are some positive things that we're seeing from this fund over a period of time. Now let's take a look at the fund's distribution ratio. We use this for a particular reason. I'd use this in my portfolio to find out who's going to generate the most money for me this week. And when you take a look at GraniteShares, they've always beaten everything else I have in the portfolio. And I like that part of it because I'm here for income. I want big income from my portfolio. And a lot of my funds I am slowly changing over to the GraniteShares because of this one screen right here. And one thing mainly is that they continue paying out that 2% or higher from the portfolio. So when I look at this now, you take a look at COYY is at 2.94%. So this is the new dividend divided by basically what is the percentage of the price of the share to the new dividend, 2.94%. Now, number 2 and number 3 are brand new shares. They're brand new, but they both came in at 2.82 and 2.85 respectively. But look at the rest of the funds. And I highlighted everything in blue because anything over 1.5% is what I classify as very high yield and produces a very nice dividend. So if you can go ahead and compare, and one of the things that I know everyone talks about, ULTY, they are always been the big income ETF. They come in at 1.63%. So anything above 1.63 is going to give you an additional income over the number one, the king of it all, ULTY. So look at how many shares GraniteShares puts out there. Now, I know these are yield boosts. I know they're independent stocks that they are dealing with. But overall, if you're looking for income, these have the potential of generating large volume of weekly payouts. HLYY, 2.76% on that 58-cent dividend. TSYY, 2.68% on a 20-cent dividend. So we just continue to look at these on a regular basis. Next, return on investment. Now, I personally buy most of my funds on return on investment because I want to know how fast I can get my money back once I invest it into a particular fund. The number one across the board, COYY. Right now, if the average price of the dividend holds, these numbers fit very well that you're less than a half a year. I will look at this and also now give you some advice. And that is, you take the new dividend, last week's dividend, and see if it hits the average to give you a number across the board. Personally, I would bump the average down on COYY, which would increase the number of years, but we're still going to be under that 0.6 category because of the way the dividends have come in. The next ones to look at is TSYY at 0.61, SMYY 0.63. So you're less than 3/4 of a year, and you would have all your funds back to invest into other products. Now, when we look at this across the board, I will always invest into a fund if you are under 1 year. And when you look at GraniteShares, almost 90% of their funds are below 1 year. That's what makes it so difficult with GraniteShares for me to make a decision of which funds we're going to invest into because they all generate nice potential on income and the potential on short return on investment. Now, the big thing to look at, total returns. This is going to take your distributions plus your year-to-date growth to give you a total return so far forecasted out. And when you take a look at this, the number one across the board is SMYY, the SMC ETF, at 145.74%. Because of the nice distribution of 142.09 that GraniteShares advertises, plus the year-to-date growth of 3.65%, it gives you that 145.74% total return. That is phenomenal. Then we go back into HLYY. doing the similar thing, 139.78 plus 1.29% growth, and now you're at 141.07. I left off IOYY and MAAY because they're so new. They've had no real history, but they've already have some nice total returns. And the third one in the category for me is COYY with the COYY ETF at 124.32%. So my final answer to you, what will I be looking at? What will I be researching? And where am I at in my own portfolio? For total return, HLYY, COYY, and BBYY are the three that I will continue to look at about either adding shares or growing my position into these funds because of the total return that's showing. The impressive 141.07 and COYY at 124, I believe they are just strong pieces to continue to play in. Now, dividend ratio, totally new game. COYY, you add that to it at 2.94% plus the total return, makes that probably one of the strongest ones for my portfolio and that I'll continue to work with. Now, IOYY and MAAY both are brand new funds that I'll be focusing in on and paying attention to see if they will continue doing the performance that we expect it to be. But HLYY, TSYY, and SMYY are my big three for my portfolio that I am aggressively going to continue to add into it for increased income. And there's a difference. For total return, that I want some growth, I expect some pieces from it. That's what I'm looking at with the total return. When I'm looking for just total pure income, these are the basically four that I'm focusing in on that I will purchase and add to a portfolio for my income package total. Now, when I turn around and look at return on investment, you can see COYY fits in there with its 0.43, less than a half a year. TSYY is in there at 0.61, and SMYY is in there at 0.63. So across the board, you look at everything on the board right here, and for me again personally, I will sit down and COYY hits every one of the three categories. That is the very first one I'll continue to focus in on, do more research, find out what is going on, what's the future of it, and I'll be putting that money into COYY. Same thing with TSYY. Has a great return on investment, has a great dividend return, and then it has the total return that we have to evaluate. So this is how I break it down. Out of 16 funds, I've narrowed it down to basically about 5 funds to work with that will help my portfolio, and I'm giving you, maybe they'll help yours. But overall, these are the 5 I'm looking at from GraniteShares for my portfolio. Tell me what you think.
Thank you for watching.